Hello everyone, Edain here, and welcome back to the Edain mod. Today we are going to be ranking the beasts and monsters of the Edain mod. And I've got a few ground rules that I've made for myself that help to identify what are these beasts and monsters that I will be ranking and why some of them I have included and some of them I have not. So, firstly, any beast, monster or animal form that can be recruited or summoned for a small amount of time that I have control over. Not beasts of burden on siege, so no Grond, no troll catapults from either Mordor or Angmar, no battle wagons, and no demolishers from the dwarves. They cannot be mounted beasts or monsters, so for example, if Ghour still existed on his scorpion, the scorpion wouldn't exist as a beast or monster because it is a mount. Horses don't count because they're all mounted. The fell beasts do not count because they only exist on the Nazgul, which means it is a Nazgul's mount, which means the Nazgul is the primary thing I would be ranking, which makes no sense. And no Easter eggs. So the Arthas Frostworm, not a part of it. And if there's any other Easter eggs that have any other special things I don't know about, they're not included either. Alright, let's begin. Oh, and before I forget, because I almost forgot, I'm ranking the monsters on 3 groups. 1, their damage in combat or just damage in general. 2, their utility in what they are capable of, their abilities, their what their attacks do, their speed in movement, their cost, all that nonsense, and then availability, which is either what tier of power it comes from, what the hero cost is, what tier it needs to be, the building needs to be to recruit them from, etc., etc. Basically, how easy it is to get them, and how easy it is to use. Down at the very bottom of the list are the ponies. The ponies for the expedition camps for the dwarves. And yes, I made the rules specifically for something like this, and a few other things. So, what is the pony camp? They are summoned bit by bit. You get them, you turn them into make Khazad-dûm vets. They don't have any real stats other than that. They don't exist to do anything else. So that is why they're at the very bottom. Simple as that. Next, at number 39, we have the Karbine, which are a summon through the middle tier power for Isengard. All they do is scout about, which is a pretty powerful ability because it's not easy to bring down with some arrows, and they're fast. However, the reason I'm putting them so down low is they're a scouting tool on the middle tier power for Isengard, and then you have to waste some time on a ticker waiting for it to appear, and then you can use it. It's too late game, in my opinion, when you also have Visions of the Palantir. It just doesn't really belong in that section. If it was a thing that Isengard had at the very beginning of the game, it'd get a lot higher of a result. But the fact it is a middle tier power, a bonus, no, it doesn't belong on that middle tier power, which costs 5 by the way. At number 38, we have the War Beasts from the Misty Mountains, your tier 1 cage unit from your main base. What makes them so low on my list is the fact that they are classified as a siege unit, so they only can attack buildings. They can trample over a few little things, but anything they do trample can just hit them back and kill them quickly enough, because they are classified as a battering ram. But they are a monster, so they got on the list anyway. But you also need to waste a whole building slot on a total of, if on a castle map, a 4-plot fortress to get this one unit. It doesn't quite belong at any higher on the monster list. It can be used well, but not as a early game unit. And you've got trolls as well. You've always got to think about the trolls. At number 37, we have the Spiderlings, and I am including both the Dogwood Spiderlings and the newer edition of the Misty Mountain Spiderlings in this, because they are basically the exact same unit, and I don't want to hear anyone tell me differently about that. So, why am I putting them so low? Because you can only recruit them from Dogwood, which is an outpost which is very expensive, so they're not easy to get. And then with the Misty Mountains, you can only get them from the Spider Lair itself, so you have to either hope your map has a spider lair to get this unit very early on, or you have to roll the dice and see what you get with the roll from Untamed Allegiance. But in both regards, they are a monster unit that is fast, but it cannot trample, and it does cavalry damage, which on any other list might be fine, but for monsters, they have massive potential for damage, and they chose to have cavalry damage on spiders, which, by the way, they also have a negative effect on cavalry, which does give them something, but it doesn't give them enough. They're not easy enough to get to put them any up higher on this list. For number 36, we have the Direwolves. They're better than the Spiderlings in nearly every way because they're easier to get straight away from Angmar. They're cheaper if you don't include the influence of Sauron making Dol Guldur spiders free. They can be upgraded to move faster and deal more damage in 2 different categories. However, they've got the same major weaknesses of the Spiderlings. Their damage type isn't good. They're fast, but they can't trample. And unlike in Mordor, in Angmar, you can, if you build the kennel, you can get an upgrade straight away which says your Thrallmasters can now make Wolf Riders. The only time Direwolves are better than Wolf Riders is if you get that other upgrade, which is a level 2 upgrade, and you decide to go Favour of the Witch King with monsters, which, as you can see from this pillar, it is green, so I have. So that they would gain bonus armor while protecting this wolf lair or a kennel, or any settlement or a kennel, and they regenerate a little bit faster. That doesn't. It's still too many negatives to weigh up the positives with. It's still just too far down. Why get wolves that can't trample and do minimal damage when you can get a wolf rider unit which has cavalry damage same as the Spiderlings, but can trample and regenerates naturally because the Thrallmasters give regeneration. And I'm also certain the Wolf Riders get healing outside of combat. Don't quote me on that. I'm trying to do that off memory. Number 35, the Cavebats. Much better than the Karbine in the fact they are a tier 1 summon. They also weaken the armor of enemy units nearby them, which for goblins is a big boon because they already struggle dealing damage. But again, similar to the Karbine, they can be shot down, not very easily, but they don't exist for very long. As you can see, they're now starting to disappear as I'm monologuing. And they are good for scouting, but the Misty Mountains have so many ways to just dominate the map, they don't really need a scouting tool. I mean, they've got the drums, so they can increase their speed tremendously, and on most small maps, you already see everything you need to know, and if you've played on the map enough, you don't really need the scouts, really. The only time you would need a scout, I'd say in most cases, would be PvP, when you want to try and get ahead of your opponent in one way or another. But that is specifically PvP, and I want to be focusing mostly on PvE interactions. At number 34, we have the Mountain Wog. A slightly larger, more ferocious Wog than the Wog units you can get in the Misty Mountains, and you can only get them from the, again, random roll the dice Wog lair, or if there's a Wog lair on the map. So that is again why this unit is a little bit further down than others, but also, this is a single entity Wog unit, which does not have a lot of health, and its trample isn't the best because, unlike the wild Wogs that the lairs have, this Wog has a very similar trample. They can only go like through one lane of units instead of being able to trample an entire unit. So it can disrupt an enemy unit, but it won't stop the whole unit from just surrounding it and killing it. That is the only weakness of the Wogs with single entities. If they've not got a large health pool, AoE damage, knockback, or a large hitbox, which could make it weaker to pikes, but would make it better against anything else, this unit unfortunately does not quite have what it takes to be in the big leagues. Number 33, we have Kass Ravens. May look exactly the same as the Karbine, but it is a tier 1 power like the Cavebats. They are not a temporary summon like the Cavebats, but they instead give a massive vision boost to a building while also weakening the enemy that is trying to destroy the building they are protecting, which is really good. These ravens will always exist. Doesn't matter where you put them. The timer on the power is good, so they can constantly be moving to a new location where you want some vision to keep an eye on the opponents, and it boosts the vision of the building itself. So if you put it on a tower, the vision it can give is tremendous. And I just want to make a quick note, I am including Bard's Thrush in with the Kass Ravens because it's only available to Lake Town for Ered Luin, and I halfway forgot about this. So I just want to make a little side note. I did remember it at the last second, but I didn't put it on the list as a separate entity because it is just a single bird, which is basically like the Carbine, like the Cavebats. We've been over it. That's it. That's all I want to say. I'm sorry for forgetting about you. The special thrush that told everyone about Smaug's weakness. At number 32, we have the Hhorns, the tier 4 summon for Lothlorien, which I've honestly been hating on this power since it came out. And I'm going to continue to shame this power. Because all it is a ring of Hhorns that spawns similar to the Watcher of the Water. They've got the Watcher of the Water animation with their little vines springing out and attacking anything within the circle. They slow down and debilitate anything in that circle, which makes pretty good use of the archer's primary focus with Lothlorien. But they don't last very long. They don't do a lot of damage, which, to be fair, if they did a lot of damage, they'd be deadly. But as a tier 4 power that has this immediate come up and then kind of does nothing, you're expecting the rest of your army to be able to do something with the interaction with the Hhorns, or just use them as a delay for the enemy trying to go somewhere, which you can do. But depending on how much the enemy is clumped up in one place, you're either going to get amazing value out of this, or you're going to get you're going to get a little bit of the enemy army, and the rest of it's just going to go around somewhere else, or just wait. And then, yeah, it's basically just a stop ability, which you get at tier 1 as well with the Mystic Stream. Okay, that's enough of me talking about this power. At number 31, we have Gorfaur's Bat Shape, or as it's called when you change that form, Doaf. So, it is a locked under your tier 4 power to get this form, which isn't easy to get, and it is the form you can turn into pretty much straight away as you've got this power. Because if you've got this power, you've at least got a level 2 Sauron. Over the course of a game, you're bound to make a Kidafungol unit, an outpost, a whole bunch of different things to make Sauron at least, like, say, level 5, so he can get to this form. He'll have a few upgrades, saying like he can make his other form of vampire bats, which weakens enemies around him. He can move faster. But his main thing about this is he has an AoE, just over time, drink effect. It's basically the same as his fire form, but in the form of bat, so it's harder to hit. Only archers can hit this form. Which, against a faction like the Misty Mountains or even Mordor, sure, that can work. But when you're going against nearly every other faction, you're going around flying as a group of bats. It isn't that hard to hit. Look, I can just click over it here and look, I'm already hovering over this bat cloud. So it's still very easy to kill this off. And also anything flying will just eat it up immediately. It's just, the main reason I've put it this low is just because it's so far. Yeah, you have to wait so long to get it, and you've got stronger forms to choose from. By the time you get to this, you might as well pick the better forms than the scouting form on a tier 4 power. I just want to make that clear. At number 30, we have the Beorning, specifically in their bear form. I'm only considering their bear form. Their human form doesn't exist right now. So, they're a fast-ish unit, as you can see there. They move at a below average cavalry speed unit. They can trample. They do have a little bit of a knockback AoE attack, I think, if my memory serves me well at all, which it really isn't right now. But yeah, the fact they can come from the Beorning homestead is good. They can have their costs reduced, so they're not like a expensive, okay, now you've got this, it dies, you've wasted your money kind of thing. you're going to get some value out of this form, whether you like it or not, because even pikemen struggle a little bit to hit this, because you can just very quickly bob and weave around. I say quickly, forgetting that they are actually quite slow. But, you know, some people aren't gonna notice the bear form straight away. On some maps, bears just roam around on the map naturally. They might just think, oh, this is part of the foliage, and then suddenly it's trampling through, and you're like, oh shit, I'm too late. That is the kind of experience you can get from this. It's a small bit of utility, but it is important to note. And also, again, if you ever want to put them back in their human form, you can. You don't have to ever stay in one form. I personally prefer the bear form if I'm going to go Beornings, just because, you know, look at them. Look at them all. I wish there was more bear skins, but I can understand why they don't only keep it one skin, so people can start to recognise when the Beornings are coming after them. Number 29, we have the Indomitable Wog. Again, a single entity Wog, but I imagine some people will be thinking, well, you can't control this. Why is it on this list? You said it's only things you can control. True. However, you can gain control of this by using a ability that gives control of it. So even for a small amount of time, you get control of it. And it is a big Wog. Only comes from the level 10 power of Shaku. The Indomitable Wog starts as an entity that will fight anything near it. But unlike the Mountain Wog, this has a fat health bar. 8,400 health, I think. And it does a lot of damage as well. This Wog can definitely act as a very good repellent. That unlike the tier 4 power Hhorns, this does damage. And that's why it's higher up than the Hhorns. And it only comes from Shaku, which you can get several times, and this is a permanent summon. Although you do need to be wary, you can't always gain control of it. In the case of Isengard, if you get the ring, you can actually permanently gain control of the Indomitable Wog with Saruman. Or if you use the hidden one, like I did. But yeah, it's the only reason it's so low down is because, well, even though I'm giving it so much praise, it is again a uncontrollable entity unless you have the One Ring. And I don't think a lot of people find the One Ring or even want the One Ring in their games because they might not want to run a chance of the enemy getting the ring. But it does. I mean, it still looks nice. It's all bloodied and battered, but you know, give credit where it's due for this Wog. It is a danger. Number 28, the Broodmother, the second biggest butt in the game, and she has again restricted to the spider lair like the Spiderlings before her. But unlike her children, the slightly larger children, the baby children she keeps on protecting her are actually really powerful. Because the AI, in particular, really struggle to deal with those little spiders. They're made very small and not live for very long, but they constantly keep coming back from the Broodmother, who can trample, by the way. First spider that can trample things, which is a really strong thing, although it does make her weaker to pikes. But you can have her just sit back, constantly spawning children to attack, and the AI is just constantly keep trying to kill those individual spiders because they're going onto attack mode. And then you just don't ever actually kill the Broodmother, which means the spiders just keep coming back. And over time, you'll reach a point where either the Spiderlings will just end up overrunning the enemy, or the Broodmothers will die because unfortunately, the Broodmothers are quite squishy. They are not meant to be like a front-bearing enemy that just goes straight in and can kill anything. It can't. It wants to stay back. Any priority targets should be kept away from the Broodmothers and only have these engage with things like archers when they trample, and then have the Spiderlings just keep the Broodmothers back and let them keep spawning. It's kind of like the that Zerg unit from StarCraft that keeps spawning things. You just leave it in one place, let it spawn its children and just kill everything. Number 27, the Watcher in the Water, who got promoted to a permanent summon. It's at a tier 3 power, which does not really give it any weakness. It will constantly pick. Okay, I did not know it could pick up birds, but it is a very it's still very powerful in this form. It does take a little bit longer before it actually enters the field, and as you can see, it will constantly eat things to regenerate itself. I didn't realise it could eat like birds and stuff, but that's pretty cool to look at. But any enemy in range will get constantly slap tapped by those tentacles. And then every now and again it will pick up a friendly or an enemy to then just pick up and eat and then regenerate. But one weakness compared to its prior vanilla state is that its uprising attack isn't really used anymore unless you really time it good. But also the fact that it is permanent, you can either choose to keep it there and then it just be a constant roadblock, unlike the Hhorns. I'm going to keep saying that, I'm sorry. But the Watcher in the Water is a permanent roadblock in an area, and on certain maps it can really just make it difficult for anyone to deal with. But also it can relocate its position. But the relocate is actually a bit weird because it's a very small area to relocate from, which I think it should be the full map teleport kind of thing, because it does take a long time for it to reset, and then at that point you could just reuse the power itself. But again, the Watcher can still die, it's not invulnerable. Its health bar is finite if you can kill it, and some factions are very good at killing it because ranged is their specialties. Lothlorien, Gondor, Imladris, Isengard, I guess. And anything with flying can just completely just nullify the Watcher itself, because it can't fight back against things that are flying, surprisingly. Number 26, the Ash Ents. Your tier 1 Ents from the Entmoot that don't require you to have Treebeard or Quick Beam to recruit. They cost 700, which can get reduced by the Sanctuary, and they have a Stomp effect. Pretty good all over round. They're a close range siege unit similar to a battering ram, but can actually fight back on the field. Although they are still weak to fire and pikemen and heroes and a lot of different things. Their one saving grace is the fact that they are Ents that can be buffed by Treebeard. And they have a Stomp effect, so any melee in clumping up around them can just get killed. Although I've not noticed that AI use it a lot, and their trample can get them killed through pikes, unlike other siege units. Don't really have anything else to say. They're good. Number 25, the Worm. It gets a higher rating than the Watcher in the Water, despite the fact that it is a temporary summon, because, well, firstly, its damage is incredible. Secondly, its health bar is enough that nothing can really kill it unless it is like a full army of fully upgraded troops that can actually kill it. And again, its damage is amazing. It's fire damage, which can destroy most things. It makes a temporary mine on entrance, so it can be used as a perfect distraction to allow for your units to then come in and kill things. It constantly relocates itself when enemies are nearby. Sometimes it requires a little bit of the helping hand. I don't know why it doesn't want to attack these Dunlendings. It just went to destroy their lair, but okay. But yeah, it's just as the same as vanilla. It is pretty much the exact same thing. It does big damage. It has enough health that it's not overpowered, but it has enough health that it can fight back for long enough, and pretty much almost always exists through its timer. Number 24, the Cold Drake. It is a tier 4 unit, has flying at base, cannot go onto the ground, and it has a terror effect. It's a bit expensive, but it's got a good amount of pros and cons working with it and against it. It's good, it's flying, which makes it hard to kill for most factions without a good ranged repertoire. But it's a tier 4 power that comes as a recruit, so you have to have the command points to get it. And as the Misty Mountains, as a tier 4, in my experience, you don't get a lot of time to actually make these drakes, and you actually want to make the other drake instead. But the Cold Drake is a nice way of having it's a terror effect. Is its main pro. It's because it can make enemies run away, and goblins will almost always be able to chase an enemy and kill it while it's in that terror state because of the drums. Yeah, because a lot of factions don't have that speed to chase a unit when it's running away. They want to use it as a runaway tool. The Misty Mountains want to use it the other way around. Use it as a way to chase things down without the enemy having any way of fighting back. And the Cold Drake is the way of doing that. Number 23, The Wogs. Basic Wogs, they are everything that the Direwolves wish they were. I'm just going to say it right now because let's be real. This unit is about the same, as easy to get as the Direwolves, if not easier because you can get them from settlements, which also decrease their cost. They can trample. They have a howl ability, which for a small amount of time gives them the speed and damage that the spiked collars give the Direwolves permanently. But this is a basic unit. You don't want to be wasting more money on it to make it better. And that is it. That is all they have. But they have what they need to be an amazing unit. They can trample it. I mean, I hate when this unit shows up out of nowhere and just tramples my archers with Lothlorien, or any faction really, because that trample is impactful. A basic cavalry unit or cavalry charge can still obliterate an archer formation. Only a unit like Galafrim can really say they will be able to hold up to a Wog charge and live to tell the tale. Number 22, Draughlin, the first hero of the list, or first official hero, and he's really good. Basic scout hero, at first glance, with some decent abilities, but his real talent is the fact he's a scout hero who can, if we go onto the HUD here, can one, turn himself into a wolf, so have incredible speed, change his ability to have Call the Pack, to have a minor AoE knockback, which can help your allies get away or stop the enemies from running away. But if you also use the favour of the Witch King through the tier 4 power Stronghold of the Iron Crown, if it wants to work. Oh, come on. Don't pull me up like that. Maybe I need to be in the base. Sorry, this is the first time I'm actually using this. I don't know how it works. Give me a second. There we go. You can make Draughlin into a werewolf. He has newer abilities. Still summon his little wolf friends. But he now gets Meat Ripping, which is an attack on an enemy that then heals himself. And in this form he has still got a little bit of health. So not a large amount of health, but it's about the same as a base werewolf for Angmar. And we haven't even gotten to them yet. But yeah, this form is definitely strong. But it is, of course, it is locked behind a tier 4 power. So it is why I've put Draughlin a little bit lower than a lot of other things. But he still deserves a good recommendation because he does have so much utility for a scout hero. He's probably one of my favourite scout heroes. At number 21, I have included the Cave Trolls and the Stone Trolls together because there is so little difference between them. I don't see a point in splitting them up because they'd just be next to each other anyway. The Cave Troll is a tier 2 unit from the Moria Cave in your main base, and the Stone Trolls are from the Cave Troll lairs either from across the map or from Obtained Allegiance or from your settlements, and which also decreases the cost of the trolls. And the only difference between the two of them is what the Cave Trolls are a little bit stronger. They can throw stones, while which sure is okay, but the Stone Trolls may have less health and damage, but they can pick up trees and have a much more impactful AoE attack. So they are pretty much just the exact same units, with very, very little difference between them. And the only difference between them is the actual visual changes. One's a bit, eyes are a bit far apart, and the other troll is just looking straight forward with their menacing eyes and that big glowing forehead. But they are really close to each other. They cost the same amount. They cost the same command points. There's so little difference between them. I just wanted to put them together for simplicity's sake. There's no point saying this was one number and then there's another number. At number 20, I have chosen Gorfaur's Werewolves and not the other werewolves because of one defining factor. These werewolves may be stronger, but they are a damn sight harder to get. You need to have both the Power of Past Ages and Sauron level 10, which is not impossible, but by that point, do you actually want to get this unit? It's a fast running unit which you have the Nazgul to fill that role for you if you need them. And other than that, they are just basically, they're the exact same abilities as the werewolf. They can eat something and regain some health do some extra damage, but then the only other thing they have is more damage and more health, which on paper means they're stronger, yes, but I am not only ruling the strength on these monsters, I'm also revealing utility, which they are equal in that regard, but the ease of access, this is a much harder to get unit. It costs a lot more as well. I have to mention that they do cost 2,000 from Ghour. And yet you can only get them from Ghour, while the basic werewolves you can get from just a level 3 kennel, which you may think, oh, we have to spend money to get that, but then you need to remember it's Angmar. You make money while getting that leveled up. Number 19, Rogsh and the Hill Troll summon. What I've thought about this power is, what is the utility behind this power? You get Rogsh. He can leap probably once before he has to go again because his timer is actually quite short. And the 2 Hill Trolls that are supporting him don't really do a lot, because they've not got a lot of health, they've not got the biggest amount of damage, so all you've got out of it is an AoE attack, and then some AoE attacks after that with these trolls. They're a good disturbing unit to have enter the battlefield at a right moment, but yeah, look at that, they're already gone. They're already just gone. They don't last for long enough. I thought there were 3 Hill Trolls. Nope, there's only 2. I thought that was... So I might have put them even further down if I'd known that. But I'm going to stick with what I've said. They're number 19 on this list, mainly because of Rogsh. The Hill Trolls themselves, I've got to put a little bit lower down. They're not as impressive as I'd hoped they would be. Number 18, Shob and her Spiderlings. Why I like Shob so much more than every other spider is just because, 1, she can trample like the Broodmothers, but she's not as squishy as the Broodmothers. 2, she can come out of nowhere, so her existence is not as... you're not able to as tactfully prepare for Shob. 3, her Spiderlings are quite deadly on their own for a quick summon, and this is a tier 2 summon, so you're gonna get this very early on compared to any of the spiders in this game. And although she doesn't last for very long, honestly, you don't need it to last very long. You just want it to trample a few things, summon the spiders, web a few things, and then you're good. I say that's really all you need. And then if she runs into some pikes, so be it. She's a tier 2 power. You can get her back very quickly. And yeah, she gets her job done, and then she goes. And honestly, that's a lot better than what she was back in the day with Misty Mountains, which was pretty much the same kit, but has had a few things that other heroes had. Number 17, the Snow Trolls. Big damage, big health pools, can get armor for even more health, can be recruited from a kennel, which is not a difficult building to have. So what's the main weakness? And it is a very big weakness. They are locked behind the One Ring, and the fact that you need to choose a certain Witch King favor, otherwise you have locked yourself out of this unit. That is the only real weakness of this unit, is the fact that they are locked behind choosing the beasts of Angmar, and you need to have the One Ring. Both of which are very questionable to get in the first place. The ring is always a what-if scenario, because you're not always going to get it. Some games, Gollum never shows up. Other games, he can show up straight away. You don't have the Witch King in time, and then you never see him again. Only when the stars align can you then think, should I go Snow Trolls? Or should I get this mine that makes my other things better? Or all this other nonsense? You've always got to think, do I want this unit? Or do I want one of the other things from Angmar? And I feel like, personally, I want the other things for Angmar other than the Snow Trolls. It's not that I don't like the Snow Trolls, it's just that the other buffs go to the other monsters of Angmar, and I don't use them enough. Or you don't need to use enough, or you don't use enough of them, because they take a lot of micromanaging. Number 16, we have the tried and true Ents. A deadly, long-range or close-range unit that can do incredible siege damage, gets buffed by Treebeard. You have to have Treebeard to get them, but that is not really much of a restriction compared to a lot of the other things we've already gone over. Their biggest weaknesses is, of course, as I say with every Ent, fire, pikes, monsters, and heroes. But other than that, they're just good. They're just a really good unit. It's just a shame about their price. Even with discounts, this unit is expensive. But if you can get over the price tag, which you do normally get at some point in Lothlorien, when you get to a certain point in the game, your economy just skyrockets out of the stratosphere. But other than the fact they can also hide in trees, because you know they are trees, sometimes bigger than most trees, they don't have a lot of movements, which is, you know, that makes sense for like a siege unit, siege-esque unit. It is meant to be like the siege of Lothlorien, but they only really move quickly if they are angered by a lumber mill, which only 2 factions have lumber mills, which is not very easy to do. The only way to trigger the Ents is to kill one of them, and then that's only if you have a group of them. So you've got to think, can it work? Can it not work? Are they going to keep up? Are we lagging behind because of this unit? Because with Lothlorien you've got to think about speed. Lothlorien is a very speedy faction, and the fact that they are slower, you have to actually pour a bit more effort into making sure this unit gets into the fray and does their job, while the rest of the army keeps them protected. At number 15, we have Grimbeorn, a lot higher than his Beorning counterparts. He's a bit more expensive, of course, for being a hero, but he is also a lot more powerful. In both his human and bear forms, of course we're going to be focusing on his bear form here, he is still a powerhouse that has a lot of utility. Firstly, he has a bite effect which can really do some big AoE ripping damage to enemy heroes. He can heal himself and other Beornings, so when in that bear form, just keep running around. If you take a bit of damage because of revenge, so be it. You then get to heal yourself up, and that is a very quick cooldown, by the way. And it is a almost full heal on basic Beornings, and about half a heal on Grimbeorn. He also has an AoE effect with the bees, and the bees aren't stationary when you place them. They revolve around Grimbeorn. So you're just getting a Mortis Engine effect ripping through a horde of goblins, for example. Instead of getting lost in the halfway through the trample, you've now just got an AoE effect that kills all the goblins, where you're just going to stand there ripping at them with your claws. And then he has just a Blade Master effect that gives him more damage, more terrifyingness, and just look at that grey pelt fur. He is ready to kill anything that gets in his way. Not a lot can kill Grimbeorn in his bear form. Number 14, the Werewolves. The basic Werewolves of Angmar. Easy to get, quite powerful, really fast and deadly. But their only weakness being that they are a single entity which does quite quickly die to pikes. But you can actually alleviate that by going around the Beast Path with the Witch King, where the Devourer will fully heal them. But not only that, it will also give them more damage and armor for the time that they have a little effect on them. And then they can just run away and then slowly heal if they've gained a level, because they will slowly regen if they get that level. And then run back in fast as Orlo, and then just rip through everything again, because until you get a tier 4 power, this is your best cavalry unit with Angmar. It is not recommended to use a large number of these, because if you suddenly run into pikes, they're all going to die. But if you have like 4 of them just running around destroying settlements and then coming in to destroy the enemy in battle, it's like same as having 4 cavalry units fighting as one. But unlike cavalry units, it is just 4 single entities, can't be upgraded, other than of course having that Devour passive on them. And then they also do get a leadership buff if you do go the monster path when they're near settlement. So they are a nice protecting unit as well. But again, beware of pikes. Number 13, we have Treebeard, the oldest living Ent. One of the most powerful heroes on creation, because of the fact he starts at level 10, 8,000 health, 600 damage. He is probably the most dangerous threat to anyone who is just wanting to make heroes, and then they suddenly just get slapped by this big boy. Anyway, he buffs all Ents. He allows you to make your base Ents. He can throw stones. He can summon some Ash Ents for a small amount of time. And yeah, he's pretty much got it all. He does really good for himself. But like the Ents before him, he is quite slow and is not very quick to anger, as most Ents are. However, despite that, he still earns a big high slot on this list because of just his immediate power on creation. It takes a little bit longer to come out than most heroes because he's from an Entmoot, and as Ents do take a little bit longer to recruit. But as I will tell you in the future, when we get higher up on the list, there's a reason why Treebeard is not the best Ent, but why he is still a very powerful Ent. Number 12, we have the Drummer Trolls. Personally, design-wise, it's just so good to look at these guys. You see them once in Pelennor Fields, and that was enough for EA to make this unit. And I have to say, I've loved it through all of its creations. It gives a leadership effect, which back in the day used to be 1 of 100, but now in Edain, the Drummer Trolls are one of the few just static, everything gets damage. Just everything. Could be an ally, could be your unit, orcs, trolls, dragons, anything can get this buff. And then they also have the terror effect, which they got in BFME 2, which makes it so anything too close to them starts having to run away, which means this unit might not die, which is really good. And it also just disrupts enemies, and not a lot can survive, is actually immune to terror. Meaning this unit will always have something that will just start running away. It is, however, slightly more difficult to get because it needs a tier 2 cave troll lair. And that means you have to buy a few trolls first, which means you have to put at least 2,000 into the cave troll lair to then get these trolls. Only way to get them cheaper than that is to start spamming out slaughterhouses, which isn't too difficult. But you have to decide, do you want to have more orcs, or do you want to focus on trying to get one of these trolls and micromanaging the trolls? I normally forget about the troll because a lot of other things about Mordor is about debuffing, and buffing Mordor isn't always the best thing. But if you have an ally, get the Drummer Troll. Just get it. It's damage, free damage. It's a rallying call on a troll. Get it. Number 11, we once again come back to Ghour with his werewolf form in particular, which has a lot of utility. It can, but firstly, every attack drains health, so it has the bat effect on top of its base damage effect, which is big damage, by the way. He can trample without being slowed, so if the enemy has no pikes, he's just going to keep killing everything. As long as you don't keep trying to hit everything in a straight line, because there does come a point where the trample doesn't ceases to exist, if you get what I mean. You got to trample, get out, trample, get out, trample, get out, trample. You know what I mean. You can then also weaken an enemy, making them do less damage, have less health, armor to worry about, and then also reduces their recharge times on their powers, which is really good against certain heroes. And then he also can boost his damage and the damage of other werewolves by 50%. So this is if you get into a late game scenario and you want to use werewolves, this is the form you want Ghour to be in. Not Anatar, not his base form, you want this form. Because he can just secretly run around. Sometimes you may not even notice the Ghour is there until it is too late, because he just blends in so well with his werewolves. The only way you can tell is if they also have a level, or if you know the height difference. Because looking at them from above, you can tell next to zero difference from those two werewolves right there. At number 10, we have Molok. A pretty strong hero. Not too difficult to get. He's a bit expensive compared to most other Mordor heroes, but he definitely does his job well. He is a troll with a lot more health to begin with. He can switch between his sword and hammer if he wants to do more siege damage and more AoE knockback damage. He can leap similar to Rogsh, but unlike Rogsh, he is a permanent summon, so you'll get to leap to as many times as you want. He can also do massive damage to a single building, similar to Morgamir of the Rise of the Witch King game in its vanilla state. And also can summon trolls with full armor with either swords or hammers depending on his form. I personally prefer hammer because with swords you're just doing more damage to heroes. It depends upon what you're going up against in the moment. You may be like, oh crap, Molok's about to die, let's summon those trolls quickly. And then you get it off and then you can kill a hero. But yeah, he is definitely worthy of some praise. And also, if you get him to level 5, you give Sauron a level. So he is necessary. Unless if you don't get Gothmog, he is a necessary hero for getting a level on Sauron. At number 9, we have the Fire Drakes. Not the Cold Drakes that we've already mentioned. These are the top dog dragons. They are the same as you get from the actual Fire Drake lairs from when you see them on the map. But this is locked behind the tier 4 power of the Fire Drake lair, and they are devastatingly beautiful. They start off as little baby dragons, which may not be intimidating at first, but they are still difficult to kill in this form. But once they get them leveled up enough, they can then grow into this slightly larger form, which from after that, if they get high enough level, they then become the fully grown dragons, about the same size as the Cold Drake, and they can even start to fly, which gives them even more potential. And if a certain faction has no archers to use against them, for example, Misty Mountains or Mordor, if they've not gone very well into there, this dragon can rip anything apart from the skies. And then you have 6 flying dragons, and then 7 if you even get SMow. But you don't typically see these dragons get much bigger than this form, because unfortunately there does come a point where they just don't have enough health to survive. There are some ways to keep these dragons alive, but one of which I hadn't actually included in this list, the Great Goblin, because firstly he's not classified as a beast or a monster. He is a goblin. I want to make that very clear for anyone that didn't already know. I'm classifying him as a goblin in this, not what some people think that might be a troll who's gotten control of all the goblins through his superior bulk. He is a goblin in my personal opinion, and that's why he's not on this list. But yeah, the dragons, really good, but unfortunately have the same weaknesses as most monsters in that they just can get shot down or piked down to death. Also, heroes are really good against them. So throw your heroes against these dragons. They'll do really well, I promise. That's definitely not a bait. And number 8, we have the Eagles and Gwaihir. So, why have I made the Eagles so high up when I've already gone over several other flying entities that are technically stronger? Is because of the ease of access. There's a tier 3 power which instantly summons 3 flying entities which are incredibly destructive. In almost all my games against Gondor, I always run away afraid when the Eagles show up because I just don't have the tools to deal with them. You just never prepared for the Eagles. They just come out of nowhere and just can destroy any army. Doesn't matter what they are. They pick up entities from the ground and then chuck them down and kill them. And because it's a tier 3 power, you can get this very early on in the game if you go straight down the Horn of Gondor to the Barrage, and then you get the Eagles. It's really easy to get them. 11 power points to get them in total if you want to go down that route. And they just always perform well. You don't use them against buildings anymore, I'll admit that. They are a unit destructive unit only, but they are definitely worth giving credit to. Because also Gwaihir has the terror effect that I've mentioned with the Cold Drakes. So you can have enemies running away. They can act as an aggressive tool to just destroy the enemy army, make them want to run away, or to have the enemy run away, so then your army that is damaged or your heroes that are damaged can then run away to safety. It is a very powerful utility tool that no one actually underestimates, which is a good, very good thing. At number 7, we have the Mumakil. Very much like the Eagles before it, is a tier 3 power. But unlike it being a temporary summon, this is a permanent summon. And it is a very big threat when it enters the battlefield. It enters with some Haradrim Spearmen, which is always a nice addition. You can put units into it to crew it, which is why I'm putting it in this list, because it does not start as a mount. It is a monster first, and it can be made a mount for a unit if it wants to. It can also get this war paint, which makes it look beautiful. And anything it tramples, if it's not a pike, it will kill, and the Mumakil will take next to no damage. And it does amazing damage as well. You shouldn't just trample things anymore with a Mumakil. You should let it actually hit its certain enemies. But make sure it's actually a bit further forward than your units when you're doing the trample. When you're doing the base attack even. Because it can hit friendlies. That is the biggest weakness of it. Its attack is a bit... it's a big attack. So it can hit everything. Very much like in Battle for Middle-earth 1. It is a very dangerous unit. It is not easy to get a lot of them, but if you want them, you can get them, and they're quite easy to get. At number 6, we have Bill, Tom, and Bert, the Troll Brothers of the Misty Mountains, which you can get from either the settlement or the Troll Lair, and they even make their own little Troll Lair to make them stronger. You start by only getting one of them. You can change which form you want, either the Cook, the leader of the three, or the slightly dumber brother Tom. All of them have different forms which have little changes. You can, if they get surrounded by things, you can't hit everything in every direction. You can just have them lie down on their backs, squash the enemy into jelly. You can bring out a pot of jelly which can heal anything in its area. Even while in combat, they can make this little troll lair which boosts their armor tremendously. And then at level 10 you can summon the other two Troll Brothers temporarily, which as you can see here are these two at the moment. They should disappear at some point. In fact, let's have a look at their time. They're still existing. I've actually managed to do my entire talk about them and they still exist. Which just shows to you as a level 10 ability, the fact that they exist for this long, as trolls by the way. These trolls are level 10 and really powerful at level 10 because of hero scaling. And just heroes in general, they just do so well together. And apart, definitely when they're apart, because they can just squash everything under the squash any competition that is smaller than them. Number 5, the Mountain Giants. As much as I hate these giants, I have to concede that they are one of the strongest monsters in the game because of their speed, their damage, their versatility, and of course their stomp ability is by far the biggest stomp ability in the game. It's bigger than Bill, Tom, and Bert. It's bigger than the Ash Ents. It's bigger than whatever else can do a stomp, because I don't think anything else can. But yeah, they definitely just do not have any real enemy that can fight them on equal terms. Archers, they just get shot. They just get hit by stones just as fast as they are shooting the Mountain Giants. Pikes, this giant doesn't have to move to kill things. It can just stomp on the units and they're dead. It has so much power behind it, and I still think they need nerfing. If they've not been nerfed in the recent patches, I do not know. I hope they have, but they are still by far one of the deadliest monsters that I can possibly think of. At number 4, we have Quick Beam, the more over-eager Ent, the fast Ent, the Ent that in the books, you don't get to see in the movies, but in the books was with Merry and Pippin quite a bit while in Fangorn Forest, and he taught them quite a lot, and he got taught a few things as well. But the fact that he is faster than every Ent, does more damage than every Ent, isn't why he's so high up. It is because of what he does to the Ent moves. He stirs the Ents into action, including Treebeard. He can recruit Treebeard in seconds with his ability. So you always get Quick Beam first, to then get Treebeard and every other Ent afterwards. He is a crucial part of every operation you want to have Ents in, and that fact is why he is so high up on the list compared to every other Ent. At number 3, we have SMow. Possibly one of the worst ring heroes of the game, is one of the strongest monsters by default. Let's put it that way. He is difficult to kill in both of his forms. When he's in the skies, only archers can rain down upon him, in which he has decent amount of health to keep alive, and then run away to then chain onto his ground form, where if there are no pikes, he is going to burn away any competition that might exist. And he has a large plethora of powers that can turn the tide as he wishes. He has an ability that can destroy any building of yours to gain experience for himself. So even if he's a bit expensive to begin with, the Misty Mountains have very easy access to massive sums of cash because of the scavenger power. Smaug is not that difficult to get. But he is difficult to keep alive if you're not careful with him. But as I was saying, he's easy to get level 10, and then that power that destroys buildings of your own can be used to destroy any enemy building, which is incredibly powerful. On top of having his fireball, he can breathe fire on anything, he can keep flapping his wings a little bit harder, knock enemies back, and also spread the fire that he has started. And when he's on the ground, he can use his dragon magic to weaken enemy heroes and anything that dares get too close to his gaping maw. There's not much that can do with him, and that's not even mentioning his ring hero form, where he just burns everything around him but can never fly for long because he is weighed down by the might of the One Ring. At number 2, in my opinion, the second strongest monster in the game are the Mordor Trolls, and there are several reasons for why I think this. At base, they are nearly as strong as snow trolls, and you can just get them from the troll cage at the very beginning of the game. There are no restrictions on them other than getting the building. Their cost can be reduced by up to 30% with the slaughterhouses. I don't remember the exact percentage, but I want to say 30% because that sounds impressive. They can then get armoured up by the influence of Sauron to then gain massive health. And at level 5, they can get a total of 9,663 health, which means they are strong. They have more health than Treebeard, the health I mentioned earlier, and also the Indomitable Wog for Shaku. But not only that, they can then be equipped with weapons. Yes, this is a monster unit that gets full choice of upgrades. You get the mace for big AoE damage, you get the hammer for more building damage, or you get the sword for more hero damage. All of these choices are good choices, and they all offer so much value to the trolls, which already does incredible damage by itself, in its base form. Never mind giving them armor, giving them weapons, making them the Olog-hai that are known as the most deadliest of trolls that do not even fear the sun. This unit is definitely the best monster unit, but the best monster, if you know this symbol, you know exactly who I'm about to summon. I just wanted to make sure you could see it before I did it. That's right, my choice for the number 1 spot for the strongest monster in the game is the Balrog. By far one of the hardest monsters to kill in the game, despite the fact that he is not that easy to get, being a tier 4 power. He is by far the strongest and has a lot of utility in his belt. He is nearly impossible to kill with anyone. I have tried with several factions to kill the Balrog, and I have failed every single time. His existence upon entering is more powerful than the Watcher in the Water had back in vanilla. So he's going to kill almost anything that is near his summoning point. Anything that survives will wish it died quicker. Ignite makes it stronger. Its scream brings enemies to fear. Its fire breath can burn literally anything, even dragons. It can fly to any location that enemies think they are safe to. His fire whip can single out heroes so that they cannot escape. And then, if you think he is done, his only way of dying is the fact that he runs out of time. And at that point, he will still have an AoE effect, knocking back enemies, so that your Misty Mountains Goblin army can just come up and kill anything that survives. And that is why the Balrog, in my opinion, is and will always be the strongest monster in Battle for Middle-earth history. And I hope you've all enjoyed this, and I'll see you all next time. Farewell.